So basically, I've got a Drupal database and its file structure from a friend. We're trying to pull in a learning object repository into Elms. So one of the advantages of having an architecture that's basically a glorified multi-site based on Drupal 7 is then you can ingest anything that's been made in Drupal 7, and I mean anything. So what I've done here is I've taken these files, we've thrown them in a location that will show up in scope of where we want them. And so then I'm going to start this process off of pushing all these files up there because that'll take some time. Going to shared here, you can see these files, and now we're going to push all of these into Vagrant. That's going to take some time in the background. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back over to Navicat. We're going to see this is the basic structure of the databases you get with something like Elms. And so we're prefixing the naming of these tables, or sorry, of these databases, so that then, say you have a database that you can import from someone. So this is a Drupal database. You can kind of trick Elms into producing a site and then swapping out the database and the file structure, run Registry Rebuild, and it'll just load it like it's Drupal. It doesn't care what it is necessarily. So this is kind of the first step towards actually rolling something like this into the overarching architecture. It's just going to take a little bit to run through those modules. I don't want to run anything in the meantime, but the biggest change, as why these sites break when you move them between servers, is this. And so you've got your system table that's defining where everything is. Now when you take all the guts of your Drupal site and you transplant them somewhere else, you need to be able to repopulate this table. So there's a Drush plugin called Registry Rebuild. Effectively, what we'll do is, once the files all get synced up there, we can run drush at innovate.sing100, which is how to call that space, and then we're going to do Registry Rebuild, which will ignore that system table and then rebuild it manually. I mean the query rebuilding it manually. I'm not rebuilding it manually, but once these files are all up there, you see it's just in CTools. Do that. The next step, once we get this site able to be alive within the architecture, then we start to leverage some of the performance enhancements. Once we do that, we kind of prove that this is something worth putting in the system. Then we can basically run a command that's going to author a lot of the files for us automatically. And so where that'll end up going in something like this is we'll end up getting a profile in here. We don't have anything right now, but soon you see we have Elms Program Hub. That's actually how that was produced previously. And so when we run our one magic command, it'll generate us an install profile, which will then drop a lot of these files in as far as the dependencies involved. It'll create a stack off of here, which I'm thinking the learning object repository is going to get a lore domain, just it's simple, LOR, and then we can have a distro that's LOR, assuming there's no project on Drupal.org that has LOR, so that we can keep with our mindset of having a abstracted install profile in addition to the actual thing being in our architecture. Then we'll go and analyze the modules involved, see where the overlaps are with something like the Alma stack, which is all the things that we use across all these sites. I have a good feeling just from glancing at this specific instance that there's really not, we already have that, we don't have a need for CAPTCHA. So again, this is where you might get Elms Learning Network ingests learning object repository and then kind of flavors it. Again, we use CK Editor, but we don't use the CK Editor module. We use WYSIWYG API to implement that. So again, that might be something a little different. We do have rate and OG panels. We don't have Path Auto. We do LTI tool provider. We have. So some of these will get removed from here just because it's duplicate effort. Drupal can figure out which copy to use for this test we're about to do. So I'm going to hit pause while that finishes uploading. All right, so those files are all up there now. And so we're going to go into terminal and run our diet innovate.sing100rr. Now, we don't have the files directory copied over at the moment. I haven't actually looked through what's in the files directory as I say this now. So we can quickly glance at that. That's the other part of a migration when you're doing a normal migration here. So I'm going to go into doc root sites default, and I don't have a file, so that's perfectly fine. So there might be file references that break, basically. So registry rebuilt in the background. Let's see what we have. I have no idea. So you hold your breath while you hit refresh, and caches get populated, and you hope nothing explodes. It's always good to want nothing to explode. Something may have exploded. Taking a while there. So let's see. We're going to go into config stacks innovate sites. Oh no, we have something there in the background. The thing I was going to look at here. Oops, not services. CLN and then Sing100 is in the settings PHPs that ELMSLN kicks out. It's got these cache prefixes, so it wants to kind of reroute the Drupal site you have to use different cache bins. So that's why that first hit was absurd right there. But it sure looks like we've got a site here, and it's not what it was before. So that's awesome. So let's log in. We don't know what the login is of it. Oh wait, yes we do. Innovate.sing100 Yuli. And so now we have the Yuli. Can throw that in. So get us in. Okay, so I mentioned the pictures obviously would be broken. Whoops, content. Let's look at like reports for this. So clearly we're looking to create an XG access file. There's some database updates, and we've got some file write issues. I know why. Okay, because we're going to go into file system here, and it's not sites default files. It's that horrific gobbledygook that I had, pwd. It's not sites default. It's sites innovate sing100 / files, and that is not our temp directory. Sure. Let's see what that does. That'll definitely make it happier. I don't think they use private files in this, but I always like to set up private files as well, which is not hard at all in ELMSLN. So that's the space for it, pwd that. And put in the full path, which is outside the scope of the web root, which is the idea of private. There we go. Private files. Let's go to status report. One thing we're going to do is turn on clean URLs. So this is kind of a live site auditing process here as well. All right, clean URLs on because my system supports that. All right. Now you can see, right, as these files are getting kicked up, this is actually, site's getting a lot faster. It's kind of cool. You can see they use panels. I'm not a huge fan of panels, but I have seen some really killer sites with it, so that's perfectly acceptable to use. Configure hidden fields globally. I don't know what that is, so there's this simplify thing, text format options. I'm going to have to look into what this is. I'm guessing just from looking at simplify, and we can search for Drupal simplify now. Simplify module. So this is kind of, just running through my process here. Simplify lets you declutter the interface. I have a feeling that this is maybe a successor to Jammer, which I would be all about switching to if I can. What Jammer is, Jammer does very similar things. Oh, okay. A lot less people use this at this point, so this could be a good pickup here into ELMSLN in general. So yeah, currently. Right, so what it lets you do is you scrub this default cruft off of the Drupal admin UI. There's no reason to have this on most sites, to be perfectly honest. So let's close that out. That's a good find. I'm going to actually file an issue in the GitHub user inner queue here. At simplify, replace Jammer with simplify if we can, to decouple the strong-armed variables. I realize as I do these things, I'm not really speaking English anymore. But I know what these are, and it's a low priority. I don't particularly care about that. Probably throw that to one of my students to do or something. So go to configuration, performance, let's see, caching. Obviously, we would want to turn these on. Cache page for anonymous users. This site doesn't have anonymous users, and capture disables that anyway. So there's that. I'm going to innovate here and see now, because it's taking that site and throwing it into ELMSLN. We've got all of the ELMSLN capabilities now made available to this. And so what I won't do it this way. What my actual process is of getting this into ELMSLN then becomes looking at the features involved. And so I'm going to take a wild guess, as the features module is not enabled, I don't believe, that this doesn't have them, but that doesn't matter. So for example, if we want to make this person's site faster, it's a site from Michigan, by the way, we're kind of experimenting with a potential collaboration. If I want to make this site faster, I just turn on ELMSLN Advanced Tag, and it'll make their site faster. It's kind of fun the way that works. So the other fun thing, so this will turn on HTTPRL features, which is the big one right there. So it's going to turn on features, and then what I see in a lot of site builds that people do is they're not capturing everything in a way that can be delivered from point A to point B, and it's not anything wrong. It's a common thing. It's actually why I wrote Profiler Builder. It's why I write a lot of projects, to just automate the monotony. And so Profiler Builder will let us take this site that Michigan made, analyze it, and spit it back out as something that's more sustainable. And what do I mean by more sustainable? Well, this doesn't have features enabled currently, right? I mean, it didn't have that on. You don't see any like learning object repository features. But if I create features, I can go in here, and you see there's a lot of stuff, right? They're using Display Suite, for example. That's awesome, to render resources a certain way. Page Manager, Profile 2 has, that they're using projects that are allow for things to be exportable, which is great. This may be an area where we have, to kind of rework some things to get it ingested into ELMSLN properly. It uses the flag module, looking at content types, article, basic page. I'm going to assume we're just kind of there, but they've got curriculum and resources. The curriculum part is where we're really interested in collaboration. CK editor profiles. Now I'd probably swap this out with textbook, because textbook is accessibility minded. It's more of what we do. But let's skip all that stuff. So what we do is learning object repository, and I usually make a module that's like UX, and then I look for menu things, menu-based items. I always try to segment my menu links from everything else, because menu links in Drupal are a little weird at times when it comes to export. But so I would grab, like the main menu items. Management, you don't need to export any of that stuff. Add resources in my bookmarks, and I'm not actually going to kick this out. But so I make those. I might throw my permissions in their own module, or feature rather. A lot of views in this. Nice. And I don't even have to look at these to know these probably should be one view. That's using contextual arguments, but we can kind of dig into that aspect. So, not moving off of that, I'd probably name this like LOR, and then LOR's menu items. And so then I download the feature, throw it back up. Sweet. I skipped over the profiler builder aspect of this previously, but once I get those into the profile, I would then take this, my blend LOR profile, a learning object repository. I would need to be exclusive. I just want to have dependencies. I don't care about the variables. And we're going to make an admin role, and this has those standard things in it, but I'm going to guess that they don't mean for those to actually be in there. And then download profile. This will take a little bit just because I have all these patches and it validates them. Because I'm running patched Drupal core in certain areas for performance and things. But so I honestly haven't gone around this site, but you can see there's some material submitted here. We can look and see things that are submitted for math course, and then I would go to it and see. Yeah, this is where it'll fall down a little bit, as they didn't give me the files, and that's totally cool. But this is pretty exciting that we were able to ingest this pretty easily. They've got things styled now. Again, in original proof of concept stuff I've shown with Elms Learning Network, this was kind of the idea: is just take stuff that's out there, ingest it, and then hook it up to the network. And I would keep this design pattern in that old methodology. Now with what we do now, we'd probably have to restyle this, right? Or at least port some of the style sheets. I do like the styling in here. It's actually it's pretty slick. And so you have to look into cleanup. Look, they use comment notify, which we use in our studio tool. Haven't gotten into the flagging things for abuse. That's kind of interesting concept. May want to see how they've gone about doing that. It's cool. Science, language, yeah, so like these, I'm going to take a wild guess that these views could be contextualized. And so even though the path is signed, what I mean by that is in the contextual filters, we probably, I'm guessing there's a filter combined. Yeah, this one's not exposed. Yeah, and so most likely what I would do, were I to have built this, is take the exact same view, because I almost guarantee these are the same for each of these, and then I would take another page and stick it right next to this page. And so now we're inheriting all of those things, but instead of this taxonomy term here, I would do a contextual filter, and I would do taxonomy term, and then I believe it's name, yeah, group results. And so then I would do override for this page, which then means that just this individual thing is going to be different. Provide a default value, and I could do a fixed value actually. Yeah, we could do a fixed value. So I don't know if I'd do term name, because term name is a variable. What you're better off doing is finding the taxonomy science standards in this case. Right, so it's a science standards. I mean, I might be able to do term name. Let's see. So then I'd have a fixed value of science standards that only applies to this display, and then name this science standards. Sure, path would be science, things like that. But then I would go back to this other one, and this one, would then become like math, because it's the same exact thing, and the path for this would then be like math, and then the contextual filter, I would just swap this out and say override, provide default value, and then instead of science standards, it would be math standards. I'm not testing this, obviously. That's just kind of a way I would modify this. I'll cancel that because I don't want to save that anyway. But I need to play around with this some more. But it's very, very interesting. It's mobile responsive, which love. It's Bootstrap based, so things really in the right direction. It's also got support for LTI and LTI tool providers, which I'm not going to open that page, knowing what data is on it. You can see when we turned on our our performance pack there, the ELMSLN advanced ag settings, that oh yeah, this really needs some love to be delivered faster, but we can easily come in and help with that. That actually is a CDN in that case. I mean, the main reason that's low, I'm guessing, yeah, is that these are disabled. So if we went and turn these Yahoos on, it should speed it up right there, actually. And then analyze the page again with why slow. Better get a better score than 67. There we go, yeah, B. So 85, just because we threw it into the ELMSLN, setup. So pretty cool. There's some broken links, and if I had the files, then this would that would get resolved. But I'm going to be taking a much closer look at this and the content types that it has, because I think it could be really, really powerful, particularly when you get into this stuff. So with like learning targets, we could definitely help clean up these forms. Content areas, mathematics, right, geometry. This stuff is invaluable. I mean, this stuff takes a really long time to get the taxonomies mapped to standards. For example, Common Core Math. I mean, this is really well thought out. I'm very excited to try and bring this in, as well as the idea is to be able to then, I haven't actually looked at the way they're assembling curriculum. I don't see curriculum in there. Sort by type curriculum. Okay, go to kindergarten curriculum. Okay, there's nothing here, but all right. So this is probably, they just started working on that aspect, but this could really be an area where we take the content of ELMS, and we're increasingly getting requests for kind of like shared pages, shared groupings of pages, this whole Gitbooks concept. So I mean, even the Gitbooks thing could be huge if directly implemented into this learning object repository thing. So I gotta mull this over some more, but the next video I'll shoot related to it is I'll actually show the conversion process, the next step of getting this to look like it's part of ELMS Learning Network, which it really shouldn't take that long to ingest most of this. It's mostly cleanup. So awesome work. Very excited.